to put us time out under there because I am known for running very long over. Hello, thank you. So, social in a social business. We consider ourselves at Bromford, our housing association, we consider ourselves a social business. But how do we, as a business, do social? And probably one of the biggest challenges we ever had, how do we get every single team internally to work together to really truly deliver that social business through social media? So first of all, who am I? Why have I been asked to stand up here? I'm a communications manager for Bromford. Previously, I was responsible for digital and internal communications at Bromford. And then for my sins, I was seconded into a transformation programme, which is where I've remained for a couple of years. And I'm just about to return back to my BAU role and help support the comms team again in comms and marketing. As well as that, just a bit of background, I also volunteer with the Air Cadets, and as part of that, help advise our headquarters on kind of social media and talk about how we can better use media communications for recruiting young people into the Air Cadets. And that's a picture of me on a cruise ship. So Comms Directors Forum, if anyone's ever heard of it, they also do IT directors, finance directors. They don't do it on a cruise ship anymore. There was too much swinging. So who are Bromford? Probably most of you will never have heard of Bromford, especially if you're down this way. So we are a social business, a housing association, and we have a social purpose. We're based predominantly in the West Midlands, so we use the M5 as kind of our operating area, and a bit of the M6. So we're kind of Stoke-on-Trent, Wolverhampton, and all the way down to kind of Bristol as our southernmost tip. We deliver... that there being our kind of corporate vision at the moment. We deliver this through providing the home as a platform. So we have, as Stuart kind of said, 43,000 homes at the moment. We have, because of that, 100,000 individual customers. We are financially viable, so one of the highest rated, Moody's rated housing associations in the UK. And we have planned to build over 14,000 new homes in the next few years. And all of that is possible because we have about 1,800 colleagues currently working in our team. And that's why we get up in the morning. That's what makes Bromford a social business. For us, the home is the platform, but the reason we exist is far more important. The home, yes, bricks and mortar, we build it, we give it to the customer, we maintain it. Yes, that's what we do for our bread and butter, and for that, these customers pay us a rent. But actually, we see that we have a far wider reaching responsibility. Our DNA internally, our kind of values are be honest, be brilliant, be you, be bold. And we hope that all of our colleagues internally go out and build relationships with our customers and really show them that by inspiring them and signposting them to different things, they can help change their life. So ultimately, our goal is that they don't need our home. So that's who we are and what we're about. So our social journey, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to 2011 now. We had profiles on all of the major social networks in 2011, so Twitter and Facebook. And we weren't on MySpace at the time. I was, Blue Fringe. Everywhere you looked, if you went and found Bromford online, this thing here, for those that don't recognise it, this is the Twitter egg, the egg that you get when you first create an account and haven't chosen your profile picture. So generally on every account, we were squatters. All we did had gone and claimed that URL, claimed that name, so that no one else could muscle in our territory if we ever figured out what social media was. We had no direction, we had no intent, we were just doing it 'cause. And then in 2011, the UK riots happened. There was obviously civil disorder across the UK. And while obviously London felt that the most, we also had that in kind of Wolverhampton and Birmingham and some of our other operating areas as well. And that was really a catalyst for us because we became a communications network for our community. We became kind of the very early versions of an online fact-checking service because customers would tweet us and say, there is a riot at the end of my street. And we would reply with, no, there isn't, that's just the milkman. There's not going on, calm down. That picture you're sharing isn't from anything recent. That's from, that's a picture from London. That's not Wolverhampton. You can tell because the London Eye isn't in Wolverhampton. But that kind of challenge that we face and these inundation of messages that we had was really the catalyst for our senior leadership to start seeing that here is something that we should probably take note of. So I joined the business in 2012, so after this had happened and all the riots. And one of my first remits, just as a kind of lowly comms officer, was to take control and start updating some of those profiles, take ownership of them for the organisation, and ultimately start to drive what our social agenda was. But social media, well, obviously, and it's a good chance, it's a comms thing. So who in this room would consider them comms or marketing? Hands, show of hands, comms or marketing. Okay. Who in the room is customer service? All right, I know how many people not to offend then. Anyone from IT? Repping the IT massive. So I'm from comms as a background. And at Bromford, it was very much seen as social media. Well, it's got the word media in there. So obviously this is a comms thing. So comms, you do the customer service. Comms would do the marketing. Comms would do recruitment. All the different elements that you could possibly do on social all sat with comms. And we had to own everything. But ultimately, comms aren't the experts. We understand customer service. We understand other areas of the business. It's our nature of what we do. But we aren't customer service experts. So our driver was we wanted to get rid. So that takes us, that's one of my first gifts in this slideshow. So we went on a journey, and it was a long journey. It wasn't instantaneous, and we didn't have customer service straight away saying, yeah, of course we'll have it. If anything, all we had was, we don't want to touch that. We've got enough with all the calls. Thank you very much. So we took a staged kind of way forward. First of all, we would literally type messages for customer service. So a customer would contact us and we'd say, here's what they've said. What would you say if you were to reply? And we would retype that into social media. And that moved on to providing them login details with approval. And that was natively into the platforms and eventually through a platform and given approval. You know, at the end, obviously, long story short, as you can expect, we managed to palm it off from comms to customer service. Now, point to note, because I do get asked this question, our customer service team, we don't have dedicated social media advisors. They are all one and the same. So the guys that take the calls are the same people you speak to if you tweet us, same people you speak to on live chat, on email. Some of them have different priorities. Some of them will take calls over social. Some of them social takes priority for them, but we wanted to make sure the experience was consistent, and it has worked for us, allowing our customer service to be kind of horizontal rather than vertical silos. And ultimately that's meant that our customers have a consistent experience. So did it work? You know, as I said, did we feel that customer service got on board and that we managed to palm it all off? So what I'm going to do is keep on that time machine thing I'm doing. We're going to go back to 2012 and we're going to tune into Midlands Today, a regional programme in the area.
Hi, this is David calling from Bromford Housing. I'm just calling you regarding some feedback we've had on our Facebook page. Have you got a few minutes to discuss at all?
And here's another organisation embracing social media. The Bromford Group handles inquiries via Facebook and Twitter in all of its call centres. They also use Facebook to advertise properties.
What we're bringing in is a whole raft of different ways for customers to communicate with us, and we want to embrace that and bring that on board rather than push people down traditional channels. We want customers to use the contact channels they're keen to use.
So clearly market-driven, and experts in social media say it's fast becoming an essential tool for any growing company.
Any large organisation will end up being talked about on Twitter or Facebook. So if you want to do something about that, you have to join Twitter and Facebook. It's the only place where you can take part in that conversation. And then as a business or as a large organisation, housing association, whatever, you've got a choice. Do you either get defensive or do you get useful and helpful?
And it appears that most companies are opting for the latter choice, hence the growth in social media, which to many now seems unstoppable.
A number of, for those that remember things like TweetDeck in its early days there, and London Midland when that was around. So what do we take from that short clip? Well, a few key messages I got. Well, first of all, you all need to consider setting up a Twitter account, because that's something that's going to be on the horizon. Secondly, social media is up and coming, so you should probably all consider being more involved in that. But obviously, one of the points that Helena there was Director of Comms at the time. She's now Director of People, our HR Director. Go where your customers are. So for us, social is about communicating with friends mainly. It's about communicating not necessarily with brands. It's that quick and easy interaction you get with your family and be able to share. And it spans kind of all that world, all the boundaries. But it's the same for brands. It should be that easy that we integrate and communicate with our audiences. We don't necessarily need to try and be someone's friend. That's not our aim. And sometimes that can seem quite contrived. But we should be accessible. We should be easy to do business with through social media. So there's no one from Lush in here, is there? Or from Wetherspoons, just so I don't offend you. So there's two obviously recent examples. They were big news at the time. Wetherspoons shutting down its social media accounts and Lush. But when you really analyse, we'll take Lush as an example, they didn't shut down their social media accounts. That's PR. No, what they did actually was change their model of integrating and communicating with social media. So they encourage more colleagues to go online. They encourage their branches to be more local accounts. Their chief execs and their senior management went online. They still have national corporate accounts in most of their operating areas. It's only really the UK that they closed down the main one. So in actual fact, they also lots of money spent on influencers now. So in actual fact, they still actively engage in social and realise that while they might do Lush to close its social media accounts, that's not true. Social is here to stay. And actually is one of the primary methods of communication and will be more so in the future. Wetherspoons, given the dues, so far as I could research, I definitely can't find them on social anymore. I found one Twitter account which when you share a picture of your table number, they retweet it and say, I want to buy them a drink for free, which I don't think is an official account. But I did some research and they're still receiving 100 plus tweets an hour about their brand. It's just they're no longer there to answer them. Albeit most of those tweets are about the length of time it takes to get from your table to the toilet and how many stairs are in between. But still, people still tweet, even though they're not there. And it's always good presentation if it's got a few stats in it as well. So Elman Trust Barometer, key things there, 72% trust in your brand when the first exposure is via social media. And obviously you need to keep that trust. And it was a point that was raised earlier. But 72% of people trust your brand when the first exposure is via social media. Combine that with your second one. If you gain that trust, 28% of people are more likely to engage in your other communications. Now that's great for a communications team. We obviously want to make sure that people are engaging with our communications team. And while we have some control over that, in my opinion, our front line is our customer service and our colleagues on the ground. And they're the ones that drive that first interaction, that 72%. So for us, as comms, to achieve our goals, we need customer service on board and we need them to be delivering. So it's obvious, comms and customer service should be best friends. There's my second two, technically. I'll stop now. So I dabble. I'm an indecisive person. I can't choose on a menu what I eat at a restaurant. And the same with comms. So I kind of switch between digital, I switch between internal comms. And for the internal comms person in me, the key thing about getting your customer service team really engaged with social and being able to deliver it properly is culture and trust. And that has to be embedded in your brand. That can't be just that, yeah, we trust you, and we've got a great culture here, and there's some signs on the wall. We've painted some values on the end of your customer service centre so that everyone knows them. It's about truly embedding that trust in your culture. But there's more to it than that. Some practical things that we do at Bromford. So we have regular content catch-ups with our customer service team, and that's about us showing them what we're going to be producing in comms. Because we know, as mentioned earlier with the conversation about repairs, so we know that if we tweet or put on our Facebook post about boilers, it is going to generate comments of customers whose boilers don't currently work. That is a guarantee. And so we do time with customer service to let them know about what our content planner looks like. We talk to them about what the analytics show, not just what the analytics from our side, from comms do, but we say, give us your analytics. How many calls have you had in? What's been going on? What are they all about? And we use that then to drive that content as well. And we share best practice both inside the organisation and out. So we show them, a great tweet from Virgin and look where they engage with that customer in a human way. But we'll also say, let's look at your tweets where you did that great, so or maybe where you didn't do so great, and try and bring it to life for them. And ultimately, slight pitch, because we are Orlo customers. So we use Orlo, and our customer service team and comms team can see the same inbox. They can see the scheduled messages, so everyone knows where everyone else is on that journey. And another interesting one we do, our customer service team and comms team do a kind of induction sharing program. So when our customer service team go through their induction, so they come in kind of batches of 10, 15 advisors, comms will have an hour session with them talking about our relationship as two kind of parts of this organisation and where we can work together, and vice versa. When we have new colleagues in comms, whatever area comms they're in, we make them go and spend time in customer service and have a day on the calls, essentially listening to the things that they will have to deal with as a member of comms and support. But above all, it was about giving them the confidence and the courage. It's as much a challenge for us to let go and to see our baby go off into the world with, customer service girlfriend. But, our biggest challenge, hands down, was getting customer service leaders to allow that to happen as well. But it's just a bit of perseverance. These are just some examples, probably difficult for a lot of you to see. But was it last year, Beast from the East really impacted our service, where our 24-hour emergency response time was going up to 48, 72 hours. Our 4x4s couldn't get to customers. Also, at the same time, amazing, our phone lines all went down too. So customers had nowhere to turn to but social media, and so they did. And we were inundated. But it really showed was comms and customer service working together. So what you've actually got here is my name. So this is me working with customer service and jumping in with them, as well as members of the customer service team responding, all sharing, all getting involved and stuck in, because we were all part of this kind of issues management. And again, we could use the system. You could use Orlo in this case. I think you just say, there you go, commented on by Orlo. We used the Orlo feature to do snippet messages. So we had some pre-written responses with the encouragement our colleagues didn't use pre-written responses. They tailored those a bit more, but it gave them the kind of framework they needed to answer customers. And we went beyond that because it was about then how can comms do more for customer service? How can we help reduce their workload? How can we give them the power to show kind of the human side? So we've got examples here of condensate pipes. Never knew they were a thing until this little pipe that comes out your house, and if it gets iced up, your boiler stops working. Pour some water over it, boiler's fixed. That was actually the majority of our calls. So straight away, when we knew that from talking through customer service, we produced that content as quickly as we could. We wanted to show what was actually going out on the front lines. There's one of our engineers trying to get to one of our customers' properties. That is a bank of snow. To the left of his vehicle. So we shared stuff like that again through customer service. They got these messages in saying this is where I'm stuck at the moment from an engineer. We shared those on social to show customers the human side, to bring alive what we were facing. And then we jumped on kind of proactive as well. Following snow comes the thaw. So we made sure we did lots of content about the thaw, about preparing for flooding, repairs, obviously the expectation that we're going to have a lot of calls now about the issues from the snow being on people's roofs. So we made sure we tried to give advice in advance. You've got to see the importance of other things as well. So some of you in comms might have heard of PESO, paid, earned, shared and owned, which is a model for communicating specifically online. So you need to make sure that as well as all this, you do that kind of shared stuff, you do the owned content on your website, you do the paid stuff, because you're not going to guarantee this all gets in front of your audience. So putting a bit of money behind it. But again, it was all about giving the empowerment to our customer service to tell them what we need. We'll put the money where it needs to go. You tell us what works best for you. And we had far too many channels. That's one of our big learnings as well. So our contact, as I said, predominantly comes from calls. It's about 80% of our content is actually still from calls. So we need to show where other channels can offer better experiences by making them work better to get that customer channel shift and that transition. Because if a customer can't get a resolution on a channel or they find it too difficult, then what's the point in us having it? So we've done a channel audit and we cut down the amount of social networks and platforms and kind of sub-brands and accounts we have to really go down to kind of one on each of the key platforms. And we looked at the purpose of that channel. So is it for customers or is it actually for stakeholders or something else? Looked at the audience and we looked at what internal partnerships we need to make it happen. So just so you know, that's our social media channels. That's where we combine down to. Had a discussion earlier about YouTube being on here. That while it's coming up as being the second, it's currently the second biggest search engine in the world. But we also see it as a social media platform because our customers do contact us via YouTube by leaving comments under our videos. And they are things like, my boiler doesn't work and I've been waiting 24 hours and it still doesn't work. Help me, on the bottom of a how to fix my boiler video. So we have to go back and respond to them there. We do try and encourage them to move to somewhere that works a bit better for us. But we monitor all these other places. We listen to what customers are talking about on the channel. And also I've put Glassdoor on here. So those that don't know Glassdoor, the employee kind of engagement site where you can leave anonymous reviews about your employer. While our customer service team don't use Glassdoor and manage the reviews on there, again, we have a partnership with recruitment, and they look at Glassdoor and they respond and pick up any kind of the incoming messages through Glassdoor and treat them like customer service would, but in the recruitment world. And I won't dwell on these, but you can see some examples of our social media posts there. Suspicious men knocking on doors always has big reach for us. And there's a few of the other channels, so 130,000 views or whatever it might be on this boiler video down here, which is one we get customer service on there, as well as people in countries around the world asking us how they can fix their boilers. An example here of our Glassdoor page, great place to work if anyone's looking. So there's our Glassdoor page. We respond to every single review, whether it be negative, whether it be positive. One of our big things we tell customer service is about being human. And this comes back again to that importance of culture on your tone of voice. You have to have a culture that is positive internally for your external brand to be seen positively. So for us, we talk about being genuine and honest. We talk about putting more of you, less of the corporation. We still have a brand. We can't do some of the silly tweets that, and the off-the-wall things that some of the brands have done. We've chosen our tone of voice. We know what we want. But that doesn't stop people being human, and we need to push that. I use an example of, you should always start with a saying sorry, because it's not admitting fault. You don't need to start with an excuse or a deflection. You can just say sorry. And that's something I always say to our customer service team, because it's happened. We went to Canary Islands. My wife's bag didn't make it. We went up to TUI at the desk, and straight away he said, our bag's gone missing. It's not their fault. The baggage handlers have lost it, or Birmingham Airport has lost it. But I went to TUI and said, my wife's bag's gone. And they went, sorry, there's 50 quid. There wasn't, I've cut down that phrase. They were a bit more emotionally sensitive than that. But straight away there was an apology, and straight away they were looking to look, here's 50 quid, and you have that, and that's to pay for your toiletries, pay for any clothes you need, keep you going until your bag arrives. If it doesn't arrive tomorrow, come back again, we'll give you another 50 quid. And just that kind of idea of being human and having a conversation with me, and straight away not going on the defensive, it's not even their problem, they were helping me. That's what you should do through customer service as well. And we get our colleagues to do things like peer-to-peer review, to show each other tweets and go, am I treating this empathically? Am I being emotive in the way I'm handling this customer? No, I'm not. Okay, I'll rewrite it and help me with it. And we like Simon Sinek at Bromford. You've always got to have a Simon Sinek klaxon at every conference you go to, about starting with the why. So one of the things we always say to our colleagues is, people don't remember kind of what you do, they remember how you've made them feel. So they won't remember about what's gone on if you give them a positive experience. And I know we said a few times about, that one time when you do something wrong for a customer, you've lost them, so you'll spend months working on them, you do something bad and that's it, you've lost them. But hopefully by doing lots of the positive stuff and always being engaged with them, actually when you do that one wrong thing, it doesn't go back to the start. You kind of get a break, and it only goes to halfway through, like losing only half of your no claims bonus. Essentially, you don't have to rebuild it from the very beginning again. And it's not just about engaging with the issues, it's also about engaging with the positive stories. And I'll mention that briefly in a second. Chatbots. Digital is certainly going to, some of the AI world will help us transactionalise and start routing things a lot quicker. So I'm sorry for anyone that has contact centres, but I always use the phone up the contact centre. Don't want to listen to your kind of voice routing, so I just press 0 repeatedly until I get through to someone by confusing the system. Sometimes works. So people want that human connection, and so AI sometimes, chatbots don't always do it right. But there are ways around that, as we heard, starting to have that kind of handoff from Microsoft, and that's something we do at Bromford, look at chatbots, starting the conversation and then handing off to the human when it gets too complicated or when it's something that really needs a more sensitive approach using that AI. And I'll use an example not from Bromford, but anyone who lives or works or knows Aylesbury Council. They've introduced AI into their customer service centre, so 40% of inquiries are handled through AI. It's still a human that responds to you, but the way they do it is when you send them your request, and AI looks at the probability of the right answer and shows that to the customer service advisor and say, start with this. And that person who works there, said, name Mr. Radwell, because I've nicked this from the Financial Times. Mr. Radwell said, I wouldn't say it's putting my job at risk. If anything, it's just making my job a lot easier. And so, just yet, one day, the robots will take over. But right now, they're here just to support us and, again, provide that human element. Again, I won't hide it, but this is a conversation with a colleague and a customer. An AI couldn't have done all this. It could have proposed the content that we're suggesting, so here's some content to help you, but it couldn't have said necessarily, wishing you a happy new year and stuff like that. And if it did, it probably wouldn't have felt very real to that customer. And this has been mentioned earlier with the with 3. We use digital to delight. We call it, and people at Facebook call this sparking conversations. So we don't want it just to be about that transactional stuff. We want our social to be somewhere where customers can feel like they get more from us. Skipping on, I'll just quickly show you this one, the cake story. About a year ago now or so, but a customer contacted us and said, I'd like to start selling cakes from my property. Can I do this? And customer service had a bit of a lapse and just went, no. Essentially, computer says no. And then they took a moment to stop and think about what they were doing. So they said to the customer, when you say making cakes, what do you mean? I went, well, and I've got the exact message, I won't read them all out, but essentially, I want to make some cakes for the local charity. They're going to pay me my costs. I spoke to the council and they said it's better if I do it like a business, get myself checked out and have a food hygiene certificate, but also to get your permission because you're my landlord. So we took a step back and we went, well, we're not being human here with our computer says no approach. So we went and analysed that tendency, and all it said was, you cannot be a nuisance to your neighbours. So we went back to that customer and we said, you know what, actually, let's support you. We joked with them and said we would like cakes, of course, if you're going to do this. But we had some conversation with them. We wished them well, and we also gave them, because we have an internal charity called UCAN, a Bright Ideas Fund, we gave them £300 to kickstart their journey, go and pay for their KitchenAid or whatever it is they might need to start off. And that really created an ambassador out of that customer. They're going to have issues again in the future. Their boiler's going to break. Like I said, it's our world. But because we'd done that, they had that level of appreciation about your humans that sit behind that customer service centre phone number, that screen, and they really believed in it. One of my final points, measurement and analytics. In comms, it's something that we non-stop go on about how do we measure our value. What is the return on investment of having a comms team? Not necessarily marketing, but comms. But certainly on the world of social, and that connection between customer service and comms again, measurement and analytics is key. So we look at things like click-through rates. We look at what posts through algorithms we want to, working out through various calculations, what posts we want to boost to make sure it gets the most engagement. We look at things like sentiment and the track of sentiment through a kind of conversation. So they start negative, and by the end of the resolution, do we have a positive statement? And because we know our audience is, and with things like AI, we're able to tailor content a bit more. We can use that stuff to provide a better service, provide better out of hours. We recently extended our out of hours times because we looked at the data and saw where customers were engaging with us most. But one of the bigger things for us is measurement of social, and that benefit, especially for a social business, it can't all be measured. So I often say to the guys, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted, because sometimes things like that emotional state of the customer, the way you've engaged them, the way you've changed their relationship, or the way you've changed their lives ultimately through what we do, that can't be measured. It's only anecdotally that you find those things out. So, care about analytics, but don't become obsessed with all of them. And just to show you, our next step for us is a true single view of the customers. And I'm sure this is a challenge for many of you, but with customers coming through lots of different channels, that's always been a problem for us. So you'll have one issue, one customer, they're on the phone, they've sent an email, they're talking to us on Facebook Private Messenger, and they're also currently talking to us on live chat. That's 4 contacts for that one customer, all with the same issue. It's simply never going to work for us. So we're working at the moment with Microsoft, and we are one of the largest Microsoft Dynamics implementations going on at the moment. So we're working with Microsoft, we're working with Orlo to try and make sure we truly have a single view of the customer. And some of that is through Microsoft's products. So Microsoft are helping us make sure our calls, our live chat, emails all come into that one view. And our customer data, I learned some new terms, data lake. I was talking about that with someone earlier. That's a term I never heard, but rather than having siloed data, we have the data lake. So the IT people in the world might have heard that before. But everything goes into one pot, and then Microsoft pull it out from the right place to the right person, whether they be on the front line, on customer service, be in comms. But that doesn't help us with social to some extent. So just to show you, this is an example of what we've got now. So this is Orlo for us, actually one of our merged in brands, having a conversation with a customer. But at the moment, this sits all here. If we wanted to put that information into our CRM system, it's copy and paste. And while our customer service advisor is doing this, the clock is ticking on the calls mounting up. So we're implementing something called Unified Service Desk with Microsoft and Orlo. So Unified Service Desk will bring in all of our contacts into one place. It will show all of our cases, all of our customer records, all on one easy, simple to view page. So when a customer contacts us, and it might have been the first ever time, we can associate that social profile with that person's their customer record, and then every other time that they contact us from then on, we're able to see all their cases that are live and all their create new cases, all of their basic information. And because it's integrated directly into Dynamics, I can post these messages back into their contact records. So our frontline colleagues, so what we call our neighbourhood coaches who are in customers' homes, they can see these social messages even though they don't have access to Orlo. And ultimately, as you can see here, they will have that single view of the customer, so they can see a customer flag that there's an issue. They can see the social media post. We get many customers using, again, some of you probably do, press inquiries as a customer service channel. So they contact the Bristol Post to raise an issue. So the same thing is happening here. We'll be able to see it all in one place through this kind of integration, through Dynamics, through Orlo, and through Unified Service Desk. And this is very, very much in its early stages. I won't profess to say this has worked amazingly because we haven't launched it to all of our customer service team yet, and we haven't launched it to all our colleagues. But we certainly, in terms of proof of concept and having our customer advisors testing it, are really on board with this fact for the first time ever. They don't have to go to 20 systems. The first time ever, social is there next to a customer's record, as well as their phone call, as well as their email, without clicking through loads of different places. So, yeah, that's Bromford. I wouldn't say we're perfect. We make plenty of mistakes. But for us, innovation is part of our brand as well. So we like to challenge ourselves. We like to remain adaptable. And that's kind of another meat message. Try new things. Accept things might fail. A piece of technology will only take you so far. So I talk about Dynamics. That will only take you so far. Ultimately, if you want to be a truly social business, if you want to really speak from one voice, you need to have that human culture internally, and you need to have all of those relationships internally as well. Thank you.